Okay, let's go ahead and call to order this meeting of the Future-Oriented Approach to Residential Development Task Force. First item is roll call attendance. Cami, if you're with us.
Hey, sorry.
She is.
Okay. Bartman Leroy.
Present.
Peggy Quinn.
Here.
Maria Baclarando.
Here.
Russell Cowdrey.
Here.
Sheila Manis. Danielle Mirabal.
Here.
Yvonne Silva.
Here.
Himesh Shubaru. And Subbu Venkat.
Okay, great. Thank you, Cami. Second item on the agenda is citizens' appearance, and I'm informed we do have someone attending who wants to speak.
Yes, Giordana. I don't want to say your name incorrectly. Or Miss Dow, are you there? Okay.
I thought she was there. I thought we heard her.
She was, and I think I just saw the phone unmute, but I don't know.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, sorry about that. Yes, this is Jordana. So I was, asked to attend. I was a part of the 2040 vision, like some of the focus groups, and so I just wanted. It was something that I reached out to someone who is a part of this, and so I was interested in listening and providing any input if I'm able to answer any questions based on the focus groups that I was a part of as part of Focus 2040.
Can you define your focus group so that we kind of understand more?
I'm sorry?
Can you define your focus group?
I think the focus groups were basically around the entire Vision 2040. So it wasn't necessarily a focus group, but I do recall, one of the pillars being like the future-oriented, communities and talking about what residential housing would look like for the future and what the future path of residential would look like in Coppell.
Okay, great. Well, I certainly appreciate you attending and being available for questions.
Sure, no problem.
Okay. And I don't believe we had anyone else signed up for citizens' appearance. Great. So next item on the agenda is consider approval of the May 12th, 2021 Foard Task Force meeting minutes, and those were attached. Did everyone have a chance to review those, and were there any comments or items to address on those minutes?
I reviewed it and I moved that we go ahead and approve them.
So Peggy makes a motion for approval. Do we have a second?
Maria Bocalandro seconds it.
Wonderful. All in favor, if you could please, say raise your hand, but if we could raise our hands either virtually or in real life, that would be great.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm seeing a lot of raised hands. All opposed, if you could let us know and state your name. Okay, I hear none opposed, and I saw a bunch of raised hands, so minutes are approved. I think as we're going on and on with Zoom, we're getting less and less enamored of having the camera on all the time, so I definitely understand that.
I'm sorry, I'm finishing dinner.
Not a problem. Okay, and as our next agenda item is number 4, discussion regarding pillar research. So the pillar research breakdown was attached. Peggy, were there differences between that and the one that was emailed out just recently?
No,
Okay.
It was, I don't think so. I just added one column where I could put names of people who were assigned to research the different pillars. That's the only difference.
Great.
Because I was going to take notes tonight. So if I can be allowed to share my screen, then I can put it up in Excel, and then that way I can write notes, as people are speaking.
You can share.
I can share? Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, there it is. All right. You should be able to see it, everybody.
Yes.
All right. So in completing this, people sent in their responses. I added some extra X's to spots where people said add an X here or there, like in the mostly in the professional development thing. And then somebody added 1X for city staff input in one of these. And then I think, was it Kamesh that sent in some input, some notes
Yes.
to the group?
Yes, that is right.
Right. So I put your notes in, and then I also sent back a note because when it comes to the definition of the OASIS node and stuff, it's in the study on page 11. It's in the study 3 times in the different pages. So I wanted everybody to note that, and then that's really about it. When we get to the different ones where there was comments, then we can go to the comment and note section. And then the only thing I added tonight was an assignment for research here, so that when people called out that this is what they wanted to research, was this pillar or whatever, then I could put their name down so we'd have a complete picture of who's researching what. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was going to chime in real quick because I know not every column has comparison of other cities needed, but I've got the comparison cities. I was going to read them, but I'll email them out to you also afterwards. There are 2 sets of comparison cities. So we've got the comparison cities that the city uses on a regular basis just for various comparison things that we're researching. So those cities are Addison, Farmers Branch, Louisville, Carrollton, Grapevine, Keller, Southlake, Irving, Plano, Frisco, Flower Mound, and Allen. And I'm going to send these to you. So I'm going to email them to you, Maria, so that way, rather than typing all these in, because there's quite a few. So I'll email them to you tonight after the meeting. So that's our local comparison cities. For Vision 2040, they used of cities, not just locally, but all across the country. And so they did it based on, there were 3 factors that had to intersect for them to qualify as a comparison city. It had to be a high-performing school district, close proximity to an international airport, and changing demographic profile. So they went through the different cities, looked for those 3 things, and the ones that met all 3 of those, that's what they picked. So for 2040, the comparison cities were Alpharetta, Georgia, Annandale, Virginia, Bradford Woods, Pennsylvania, Brushy Creek, Texas, Buffalo Grove, Illinois, Cedar Park, Texas, College Park, Maryland, Cupertino, California, Dublin, California, East Point, Georgia, Edina, Minnesota, Edina, I think I'm saying that right, Inglewood, Colorado, Flower Mound, Texas, Friendswood, Texas, Hoffman Estates, Illinois. I'm not going to say this one correct, so I'm going to go ahead and tell you that in advance. Issaquah, Washington. Has anybody?
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. Keller, Texas, Lexington, Massachusetts, Los Altos, California, Maplewood, Minnesota, Newark, California, Schertz, Texas, Southlake, Texas, Temple, California, and West Lafayette, Indiana. So there's that's a lot of cities. But I will email out that list to you all. In fact, I can type it in right now and just email it to you so that you have it for whenever that research comes. So I just wanted you to be aware of how many we're talking about before you start the discussion. So
Yeah, just for comparison, the West Lafayette, Indiana, as well as College Park, Maryland, both of them are primarily university towns, very similar to, say, College Station.
Okay. Thank you, Kamish.
When you send those out, Mindy, I'll add a tab to the spreadsheet so that we would have a tab of those cities in the two types.
Okay.
Because it might, we might need it as we're bouncing back and forth on these different pillars.
Perfect. And again, I think the difference is the local communities that the city uses on a regular basis to look at ordinance comparisons and budget comparisons and those kind of things. Those are really all locally. They are all locally focused, and these were picked or selected based on specific criteria that they felt made them equivalent to Coppell. So I'll send those, type those in and send those out to y'all now.
Mindy,
Yes.
was I wrong, but was Keller not on both lists?
Let me check. I don't want to lie to you, Russell. So, where did I just, now I've just put, Keller is on the local comparison cities. But they are, and they are on the cohort communities also. So is Southlake, and I believe so is Flower Mound.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you.
Sure.
I guess that makes them extra comparable.
Yep.
So Peggy, is the goal to work through these, talk through these, and then get some volunteers for further research assignments on each of these points?
Yes. Yeah, that is the goal. Plus, the other thing that I threw out there is that when we do have to go to these comparison cities and sit down with them with questions and get information from them, those pillars that need input from those cities, I think a person from whoever is researching that should work with each other so that there's one list of questions and we go in there very mindful of people's times and effort that they're doing to help us, to give us information so that we have a list of questions and we go in there and we don't have to double back with them because we only covered pillar 1 and we didn't cover pillar 5 questions. So, just things like that. So those pillar people will need to work in a team to be mindful of the other cities and their city's input.
Makes sense. Well, should we get started? Just kind of go top to bottom, talk a little bit about what we're looking at, and then
Sure.
I don't know if we should try and solicit volunteers as we go, or maybe quickly recap all of the pillar specifics and then circle back and start talking about volunteers.
However you want to do it, I think,
I prefer at the end so we can hear all the pillars and specifics.
Makes sense. All right, so the first pillar with the green highlighting involved establishing programs to protect the unique character of single-family home community oasis nodes. And we have two specifics under that. One is creating regulations for sensitive redevelopment, tear down, rebuild of existing homes. And under that, we've identified a point to reach out to comparison communities. Also a potential area for focus group and citizen input, and also some city staff requirements. And the second one being developing an internal structure within the planning department and council to ensure all development protects the unique character of each community oasis node. And currently we have that just primarily as a city staff input needed.
One thing about this on the oasis nodes, I don't know if everybody read that, but on their pillars, and I don't know who's working on the oasis nodes pillars, but there is a section, and on their pillar, it's to define the oasis nodes that exist in the city, and they kind of grouped them in that section of the report by, the park that's around them, or the lake that's around them, or the body of water and stuff. And so they're supposed to define the unique characteristic of each one of those nodes, of those oasis nodes. So I'm not sure whether or not this team on developing internal structure within the planning department for the protection of that needs to probably reach out to that group and find out how they're documenting the characteristics and uniqueness of that oasis node, and also if they are coming up with anything that is to protect the node that they found, or that they defined, or that they cordoned off, right? So,
do we know who's working on that?
I think we have to ask Mindy. I don't know.
When you say who's working on this specific pillar?
The pillar, the pillar of the oasis nodes. There's several pillars.
Or have those been defined somewhere?
That's a good question. I don't know the answer to that, to be honest with you. That I think that falls under us, under this group.
Because that adds 4 more pillars and several things. We can do that. I'm just saying, and that adds.
Peggy, can you pull up? Can you pull up real quick the actual report and the 7 pillars?
Yes.
Foard is just one of those, and Smart City is one of them. So, Mindy, we assume the other 5 are getting handled by city employees, or?
Yes, that is correct. So city staff will be working on, just similar to what we talked about, we have a work plan every year that city staff is working on. But I thought the Oasis nodes fell under Foard, but I'm sorry, I don't have the plan in front of me. So
hang on a second. I do have that picture, that graph. Let me share my screen again, because you have to unshare to share. So here's let's see. Here is the Enhance the Unique Community Oasis, and they are before we are.
Yeah. Okay. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I was just thinking that fell under Foard. So that will fall on city staff. That's.
So here's what they have to do. So that y'all can see. So they're developing a sense of neighborhood and at an appropriate scale. They're developing programs that enhance the unique feel of each neighborhood. They're creating a metrics to measure the health and happiness of Coppell residents. And they're establishing new safety awareness and training programs. So it's this first one where they're developing the sense of neighborhood on an appropriate scale that may tie into what we're being asked to do. And also develop programs that enhance the unique feel of each neighborhood. So that...
Yeah, while there's not a specific board created to do that, city staff will work on it, but we may be reaching out to the community on different things too. And that's typically what happens is when these work plans are created, there are several different activities trying to accomplish these individual things. So I can't give you a specific answer on, Peggy Quinn is working on this or police department is working on this. I couldn't define that for you today. There will be different activities throughout to try to help work on that, if that makes sense.
Sure. And Yvonne, I've seen you with your virtual hand raised.
Yes, sir. What I'd like to propose so that we can get through that is maybe adding 2 more columns there. One is predecessor tasks. So what we would need to have. because what it sounds like we're waiting on is inputs and outputs, a trigger of an event to give us some sort of a status that will tell us the ball's in our court, right? For the next source of research. So maybe we handle this in the formal sense of program management, adding the predecessor tasks, what it is that we need to trigger that, if there are leading or lagging indicators that help us to assess our own status, green, yellow, red, right? So I think that might help us, and it will also help us to hone in on our focus of where we can make these next research contributions really count.
Yeah, I just want to caution us, though, that this is the only one where I saw a connection to a specific other team with several pillars.
Sounds good to me.
But I can add that. And in fact, I have a note here to add predecessor tasks and leading indicators that are needed. So I'll add those two after the in between the notes and the assignments.
So, I mean, having read through all of the definitions of their pillar, it seemed like it was quite a bit different in that it was a lot about cultural enhancements and things to bring people together and so forth and so on. But I think the one common thing that we both need is a definition from the city on what constitutes each particular node. So if Matt and crew can kind of divide the city up into those, I think it'll help us and whoever's working on that if they haven't already done it.
I'll tell you, we have not already done that. So that'll just be something that we'll have to figure out. But the parks and the HOAs and definitely the subdivisions as they develop, that'll help define those nodes.
So Matt, a question I have around that is, to me it sounds fairly daunting. With that, we could spend a lot of time just focusing on each individual neighborhood node and trying to come up with the stuff around planning to help that node keep its character, I guess, from a development standpoint. And I guess that's, to me, it just seems like a rabbit hole at this point on this one. So I just want to put that out there, that this seems very open-ended until we have the neighborhoods defined, and then I think maybe a different group has to come in and tackle those one by one, or we have to divvy it all up again at some point and tackle those neighborhoods one by one, with maybe this current process giving us some ideas on what we can do to, what kind of things we can put in place from the other cities that they're doing to keep the character of individual neighborhoods intact.
Right.
And then,
so a fortunate thing that the city has is, the majority of the neighborhoods were built over the same period of time, and so they have similar characteristics. So a lot of the research will just be duplicated for each of the neighborhoods. But yeah, you're right. It will take a lot of time and effort.
Yeah, because, for example, I think up until real recently, Matt, all building structures, even houses, had to be 85% masonry, right? So you're not going to have a lot of neighborhoods that don't have houses that are brick.
Correct.
I saw Subu's hand up first, and then I saw Kamesh.
So a couple of things, ladies and gentlemen. One is, I see that it can be a half cent from taxes. I don't know where that is coming from.
Wait a minute, Subu, we're not there yet. We're still discussing line 5 here.
Oh, line 5, okay.
When we get to that, yeah, because I'm taking notes on line 5. I'm sorry, I can only do one thing at a time.
No, Peggy, I thought you could multitask, but that's fine.
You don't have like 8 arms and you're just type 3 keyboards.
I'm good, but I'm not that good. I just put a double X here on comparison of other cities.
So, so my intention when I asked that comment in the email was the same. It is not that it was not in the report as it was spelled out, but I was wondering if it was spelled out to that detail in that report that is a reference to here. But I agree with Russell. It does seem like it's a very open-ended type of a issue at this point here. And I don't know if we really need a focus group, community involvement, because I think I checked that particular box when I sent the Excel sheet back to you, Peggy.
No, focus group wasn't on this one, not on develop an internal structure.
Oh, okay.
Because that's an internal structure. City staff was, but nobody said anything about focus groups or.
Okay.
So one of the things, can I read? So I checked with Molly Buhanda, who was kind of the staff liaison to the Vision 2040 process. And so speaking about, because I think, Kamesh, I think you asked the question again about what does unique character mean? And so her comment back was, unique character was a broad way of saying keep aspects of what the neighborhood's like and find distinct about their areas when considering redevelopment. The most notable aspect of this idea from focus groups was that people seemed protective of the single-family home model with safe networks of neighborhoods around certain schools, parks, etc. So she goes on, she kind of talks through, and she said it was left intentionally vague, is basically what she says. It was vague because then this is part of maybe what we would use a consultant in the focus groups that if we get them to do these focus groups is to get different people to define, getting that community input on what it is they find unique about their neighborhood that they want to protect. So I think we're struggling with it because it is vague.
Yeah.
But they make it sound like it was vague for a reason. And so it's just to encourage that continued community input on this. So I don't know if that helps. I do think Russell has a really good point about maybe we start kind of identifying particular areas to help us kind of define, okay, well, the people from this focus group are speaking to this area, but it doesn't provide much insight other than they did leave it vague for a reason. So that was just the input she provided because we struggled with it at the last meeting too on what unique character means. So
thank you, Mindy.
This might be a scenario where getting some answers as to how other cities handle the sensitive redevelopment could shed some light on, maintaining the unique character of a neighborhood. Kind of be perhaps.
I think y'all mentioned Highland Park last meeting, and while they're not on either of our comparison city list, they certainly have gone to great lengths to protect the unique character of the entire community, but their entire community might be the size of one of our neighborhoods, just truthfully. So I do think there probably is some knowledge that could be gained by talking to other communities on what they've done to kind of do this very thing. But I think the important piece and the piece I like, and it's something for us to think about because part of what we're doing with this is helping us identify what we want in the RFP for a consultant if we get the green light for that, is we need that citizen engagement to help us define what that is for different areas of town.
So would that be put into our contract, even though the actual Oasis definitions and stuff is the city is doing them? So would we put that into our contract for a consultant so that it would aid the city in what they're doing, or are y'all doing a separate contract and asking for consultant?
No, I think this is the hard part also about these kinds of plans. It's not going to be one group working on necessarily, I mean, you all are definitely defined to work on the Foard pillar, right? But the other ones, it's going to be collaboration from a bunch of different things. So there is no plan.
All right, so I'm going to
hire a consultant to do that.
I'm going to X off the focus groups and the consultant
I think that's good.
on this one.
Subu, did you have something else for us?
No, I think I want to be clear on the Oasis node, since now I'm hearing new stuff. So is that like pre-selected areas of the city or areas in Coppell that would be eligible for this kind of Foard development? Is that the Oasis node, or what exactly is the Oasis node?
So the Oasis node is defined in the report, and I do have that part up here. Let me share this. I have this up as well. So this is from the report. This is the first time that it happens is right here on the first few pages where it's defining the different attributes, and it says the community focused its well-earned strength, including strong school district, peaceful neighborhoods. The community invests in its existing residents and ensures people can embrace active aging within the city. The reputation, one of being a desirable and exclusive community embedded in the DFW Metroplex, and they call that the community oasis. But then later on 7.3 enhancements, which is the part that tackles the importance of the unique community oasis experience, they define it as the people defined it as a mind of being safe neighborhood locations where people know their neighbors, children play on the streets, and there are similarities and uniformities. The concept also supports strong health and wellness focus in Coppell. To create and maintain the sense of an oasis, it's important to consider scale. So then this goes into more of that. But as far as the only place where it said that they defined it was in this part of the report.
Okay.
And then they further defined it in oasis bubbles, and I did not copy that page, but there's actual bubbles on the page. So if you go to page, I think it's 11 and 12, 13, but if you find this section 0.3, the bubbles and the oasis centers are actually there. They're defined in the report.
Yeah, that's fine. I think it's pretty vague, like Mindy is saying. I was under the impression these would be pre-selected neighborhood that would be targeted for Foard investment, but yeah, it doesn't seem like that. And
no, this is the whole city broken down into these round node things. If I had the report open, I could go to that page, but I don't have it open. It would take too long to.
No worries, no worries. Yeah, this is clear.
Yeah.
Sheila, I see your hand raised.
Yes, I believe I remember from the last meeting that a node was kind of described as replicating Old Town Coppell. I remember that comment being made, and that was kind of the thought around what a node looked like, that village-like feel. Was that captured anywhere in the documents, Peggy, or anyone?
Yeah.
That comment from last meeting?
That was one of the nodes that is captured in the circles, in the bubbles. So each bubble, like, for example, Maria and her husband, I think, live around the duck pond. Maria, correct me if I'm wrong. And that's a center focal point of your neighborhood for the duck ponds.
No, I actually live off of Moore.
Oh.
I'm on a cul-de-sac that goes to the duck pond, but I don't live around the duck pond. I live near Austin Elementary, so it's Haven Crest next to Shadow Crest.
So the duck ponds is one of those oasis nodes.
Yeah, and Sheila, I believe what you're remembering is my recollection of participating in the 2040, of trying to make our communities. So let's say Austin Elementary, we just mentioned that might be a node. The Duck Pond might be a node. Definitely Town Center would be a node. And trying to make those areas within the limitations that we have as walkable and as connected and cohesive as possible. It wasn't necessarily that, hey, we're going to try to turn them into Old Town, but I think Old Town is the ideal. I think everybody saw it and said, hey, we would love to have a part of that, but I don't really want to leave my neighborhood.
Well, and Russell, to build on what you just said, in fact, I think people don't replicate the look of Old Town. They want the feel of Old Town, but with the character of their neighborhood that currently exists. So I think that's an important piece, because in fact, that was one of the things she said. You know, you wouldn't want to plop the design of Old Town, meaning like the design of the homes, in another part of Coppell now, because that takes it away from the character of what that neighborhood is today. But maybe replicating the connectivity and those kind of things of Old Town definitely could be embraced in other areas of town.
I agree.
This seems like an area where we could. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, just to kind of help make that distinction, because I don't want people to think that that's what, that we're looking to do Old Town all over in Coppell. Old Town has a definite unique character to it that they want that to be that character, but the Bird Streets have another unique character, but maybe creating some of the vibe and the connectivity and all that's in Old Town just in the Bird Streets today. So
yeah, and I would strongly suggest that everybody go and look at that one page in the report. I really would, where they have the bubbles, the bubble page. It's actually a very good graphic, and the neighborhoods are listed.
It's a really important distinction. I'm glad you made that distinction, Mindy, and I think it really colors what the essence of the meaning of these items are. So that was a helpful discussion.
So this seems like an area where getting citizen input, not necessarily on like where your boundaries of your neighborhood are or your oasis nodes, but more on the kinds of developments that they could, potentially see happening, or other talking about, developments and things that they think would enhance their nodes is a helpful thing for the citizen input needed. But beyond that, given seems like the work to be done, I don't know if this is necessarily one for us to do a lot of work on at this point. What are y'all's thoughts on that?
I think for sure what I was hearing in this discussion, which I think was honestly quite healthy, I think if we just put ourselves in that same situation as customers, we're all a customer. This is about the customer experience. So I think if we ask ourselves, are we meeting the call? They were quite defined as far as the sense of community, the educational factor, the charm in your community. So maybe we just ask 3 deep dive questions where we get a little deeper. What do you consider are the 3 top priorities in your community to retaining?
So what you're suggesting, so if we define those and we have, I don't know, however many HOAs or however many Oasis nodes, then the city planning department puts those on paper. Here's our nodes. Here's the 3 top characteristics according to the people who live there.
Yes.
And then the internal structure is that planning and zoning would have that. So if somebody comes to them saying, I'm going to knock down this house and rebuild this house on it, then they would be able to reference that sheet and say, well, this doesn't meet the characteristics that somebody said was important.
And I think it's on a continuum. You know, I think what we're hearing here is that times are changing and there's a continuous need to maintain that sense of community. What I heard is that demographics are changing, needs are changing. And I really think if we looked at it from an innovative perspective, your customers' needs are changing.
So I think we have to be transparent from the get-go on this. And I think I heard Bart or somebody use the word sensitivity. I think that's the key, because at the end of the day, we can compare Coppell with any number of cities in Texas. It's difficult to find a similar revenue structure with 40,000 or less citizens. So unless you are comparing apples to apples, you're not going to convince a lot of people. So transparency is the name of the game, and clear objectives from get-go, because no matter what, at the end of the day, it's a democracy, right? So, people have that ballot box to go back to. So with that in mind, I think the council and the city have to be cognizant that this is a leap of faith. And if I'm going to, add half a cent of whatever to my taxes to demolish and repair somebody's house, we have to be transparent on what I am getting as well as what the city is getting. So it's a win-win. It's the commons, the law of commons, right? Law of commons. So with that being said, I think transparency is key. So wherever you guys feel, we should involve the focus group, and it should be cross-sectional and across the board, because I've heard multiple times in this conversation and before, Old Town Coppell. That is all great. But if you come to the other side, there is definitely a feeling that the city has spent a lot of money, infrastructure, and effort on Old Town, while the other side of Coppell, like around Sandy Lake or wherever, that's not been refurbished. And in fact, if you look at MacArthur and Beltline, that area, that's been like that for a long time, which also is Coppell. So those are some of the source parts. So we have to be transparent and clear on the objectives, and also able to communicate the why behind this.
Okay.
All very good points.
So Bart, are we ready to move on to line 6?
I think we are.
This was a short one.
Yeah. Establish a local fund to help with incentives to support restoration and renovation of older housing stock that has significant architectural or aesthetic value.
So I did add a comment in the comment section where people were surmising where the money should come from for the local fund. I mean, the world is your oyster. There are local funds all over the place. All I'm saying is that, for example, we have a sidewalk fund in Coppell. It's a half cent of your taxes, and it goes into repairing sidewalks that you turn in that are, uneven or whatever. And there are nonprofits out there that have local funds to help with stuff that either can be manufactured or are in existence. I mean, there's all sorts of stuff out there for funds, but I wouldn't necessarily turn my back on the fact that if this group researching this finds that a local fund really is not the ticket on this, that maybe the suggestion maybe goes for tax abatements rather than the local fund. I think this group who researches this, or the person that researches this, can tilt it if they need to. Mindy, can't?
Yeah, so I've let you talk through this a little bit, but I will kind of talk a little bit about different funding mechanisms through the city itself. And then you're right, there are other avenues. I think we've discovered there are some that are difficult due to income in Coppell, but Through the city, we do. So, for example, today we have a fund that is set up specifically for facade grants for commercial businesses. So there is a possibility of council makes decisions based on, dedicating certain portions of the fund balance to different things. There is that option. So I think that is something that you do the research on how it could work, and then you have to pitch the idea to city council to see if that's something that they would want to fund or not. Along with that, also doing the research to see if there are other avenues for, helping fund this as well. But I think it is something that it is done by it's redevelopment. Cities all over the world do redevelopment incentives. And so this is something that you would just have to ask council if this is something that they would want to incentivize. And they may decide no, but you've at least done the research to provide all the information to help them make an educated decision on this. So that's definitely just whoever works on this. I'm happy to sit down with you to talk about, to sit down and talk about this further about how we could go about doing this. So
I want to volunteer for that, Maria Calandro.
For this one?
Yeah.
All right.
Daniel.
Can I ask a question real quick? And I apologize. I don't have the little, I'm on my Chromebook, so I don't have the little funny raise hand feature. They just left it off. My biggest question is around who is deciding what is significant and of, or, architectural value.
Yeah, I have a note on that too. Yeah, because I agree.
I mean, it's so strange that would be what got put in there, because as we noted, as Matt said, all the housing stock was kind of built at the same time. It's not like we have these grand Tudors or we have, any kind of unique Cape Cods or anything going on around here. So what is, please answer that.
Well, the other thing too is that there's been several, I'm on the HOA board too, so I kind of wear two hats. And there's been a lot of HOA changes in state laws since 2017. And so in my HOA, if you go to add a second story, or you go to add a second story, which we had a house double its size and add a second story, they had to still make it brick, because our HOA says that in our neighborhood, 85% is going to be masonry, and their original house was brick, so they had to stay with the brick. They did add some rock highlights to it, but so a lot of the HOAs won't let you do very much when it comes to the aesthetics. Matt, you pretty much know all the HOA stuff. I mean, aren't most of them like that?
We don't have any.
Yeah, go ahead, Maria. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, that will apply for the, so when I read this, and you say older housing stock, well, Coppell was incorporated in 1955. And the oldest houses, I'm not saying the little grocery store we have there, at least the houses in a unit are 1979, which is, where I live, because I just wanted a one-floor house very close to East, and this is where we bought. But I understand, Russell, this has to be, I think this team would have to investigate, what is the definition of, older, what is it called? Older housing stock.
Yeah, that has significant architectural and aesthetic value. What is aesthetic value? What is significant architecture?
Right. And so that, again, might go according to the nodes. I think it's like if we look at Old Town, there is an architectural look and feel to it. And if we go down Parkway, it's different than if you go down, the Haven Crest and Shadow Crest. And then if you go to the Birds, it's something different as well. But I think the criteria is important to have it up front because, what if the city says, yes, there's going to be a fund, there's going to be citizens that are going to be applying to those funds. So the criteria has to be very transparent. And so, yeah, that's why me and Daniel Mirabal would also like to research that to see what's happening in similar cities. It is a house of 1979 older stock. Well, it is if you compare it to one that was 2020 that's right down on Beltline. It's not historic, but it is the first houses that were here. So. Just put Maria Bocalandro and Daniel Mirabal, Mirabal, and we'll look into it as urban planners. What's going on?
So, I think we got to be careful on this one because, like I said earlier, unless the criteria is agreed upon. This could be, and again, Peggy, you bring up a good point. Does the HOA overrule the city or the city overrules the HOA? I know that I used to be part of the Villages of Coppell HOA. I need to go back and look at it. But at the end of the day, is it like the city can overrule the HOA? How does that work?
Well, the HOA was actually approved. The HOA CC&Rs, the covenants and requirements, was actually approved by the city. So the city would support them based on the fact that they did approve them. And so if there was something in them that they would not have approved, then they shouldn't have approved them at that point. Matt, what do you have to say?
Yeah, let me just speak to that for a little bit. The city doesn't, isn't the authority for the restrictive covenants. So that's a private deal. So the homeowner needs to make sure they comply with both the city and the HOA. And, if say the HOA has masonry requirements, which is good, then they would need to comply with those masonry requirements. The city can't have masonry requirements per the state law now. So that was a really good point Peggy had brought up, that, maybe these restrictive covenants that have the masonry requirements, the city support that, but really, I don't think we will go into the area of regulating restrictive covenants. Just cities stay out of that business. Yeah. So anyway, does that help?
Yeah, going back to Maria's thought process, if a homeowner applies to the city and the city cannot approve without the HOA's final covenant, within the boundaries of the covenants and all that, because that's what I'm trying to get at.
It's two separate approvals.
So technically, the city would say, hey, make sure it's okay with your HOA. We would ask that they do that, but we can still approve something that's compliant with city ordinances where it's not compliant with the HOA, but they're going to get in trouble with their HOA. Yeah. So when we know that, we give the customer a heads up and say, hey, be really careful, because it says right here, I know we're not supposed to, regulate or be the regulatory authority for your restrictive covenants, but be really careful, because we don't want you to invest too much money in something that the HOA is going to have you tear down. So.
Yeah. Matt, where I was going with that is, pretty much the neighborhoods here have the same look and feel. So if one house in a street wants to apply, I don't know whether that's going to be the process, because that seems really not the right way to do it, if you ask me. But if they apply, then the other homeowners may say, I'm not interested in tearing down my home. So it might create a conflict there.
Yeah. Can I ask a question on this? We're getting way in the weeds, so let's don't spend too much time on it. But for instance, the whole second kitchen restriction that Coppell has as a whole. If the HOA doesn't have something in their covenant covering a second kitchen, and you guys go and change that rule, if the HOA doesn't like it, can they now go back after the fact as a group and change that?
Well, I'm not an expert on HOA covenants, but I think there's probably bylaws that for the HOA in terms of how they establish their restrictions, and so it probably require a certain percentage vote on the HOA's part. And I guess Peggy's probably a better expert.
It's extremely hard. Yeah, it's extremely hard to change your CC&Rs because they are actually part of your deed restrictions. And so it takes 66.2/3 of your neighborhood to approve a change in your CC&Rs to actually then re-record your CC&Rs with the county.
Okay, thank you.
It can be done, but it's very rare. My question on this one was, somebody said to put focus groups on this one, on establishing a local fund, and I was wanting the group to, I put it in because I put in everything that anybody said, but I wanted the group to kind of look at this to see whether or not it really needs local input, because it's really about older housing stock and preserving aesthetic value.
So I said that the focus group need to be done. So if you have questions, let me know, guys.
Well, so that's what I'm asking, guys. Does this really need to be part of the focus group?
So are we challenging each one, Peggy, for focus group? Is that what you're doing?
Yeah, I am, because at the end of the day, we're going to have to limit it to be within a budget that the city, I mean, you can spend $100,000 on
focus group?
On a consultant doing all these different focus groups. So at the end of the day, yeah, it's expensive. And
so you think it's going to cost us $100,000 for all these focus groups?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying it can. You can add it up, and depending upon how much work you put on the consultant.
I didn't see you challenge the other ones. That's what I'm asking.
Well, because you can get some value from the citizens on creating regulations for sensitive redevelopment. I can see where we would need the citizen input, because you're creating regulations on people who live in the community. But on establishing a local fund where you're talking about...
You're saying for money, we don't need to ask the citizens. Okay.
I agree with Subbu. I think when we're talking about money, and that means taking money from one thing to another, you have to consult the citizens. I agree with Subbu. I think it should be focused.
Well, then I'm just asking the question.
Yeah.
I don't think, Peggy, maybe my question would be, what questions would you want to pose to the citizens for this particular?
No, that's not what she's asking. She's asking whether there's value in the focus group.
His point is where I'm going. That's exactly what my point is that I maybe didn't phrase it that way, but that is it. What questions would you ask a local citizen?
That's not for us to determine right now. That's
not what you're talking about.
What I'm saying is, okay, let's say that we determine that where I live, this cul-de-sac is actually a place of older housing stock. Okay. So I would like for people to ask me, if there is a fund that is for that, would you use it? Do you need it? I might just tell you, you know what? I want a bike path. I don't want you to give me money to, paint my front door or whatever, I think we should have I would prefer to have excessive focus groups than to come short, and then when it goes to the council, then it gets shut down, because the council represents our citizens. So I would prefer a focus group to guide that. That's just my opinion.
Okay. I see that, yes, and you're correct. I see it as an overall money type of focus group of, would you want to spend money on this versus this? this versus that. Okay, I got you.
So I have a question on this. In terms of just a projection, how much of a fund are we looking at? Let us say in 2040, when this fund is established, does somebody have an idea of how many $1 million is it?
This
is what we'll need to look at other comparable cities for and see what they're doing.
Yeah,
and it may be a look at an overall fund or like what people tend to spend per property. I'm sorry to keep butting in.
No, you're right. But this also isn't a fund that's going to just pop up in 2040. I think if Maria and Danielle investigate it needs to pop up next year, then
yeah. So I'm just projecting. It's just that what I'm thinking is, if you look at a neighborhood that is today, let us say that was built around 2000 or 1990s, and then you look at how many houses that are all qualified to being older stock. Let us say 40 years is your designated older stock definition. And then they get eligible for this particular fund in 2030. And let us say we can count how many houses there are, and to preserve whatever is the character of each of those houses at that point, there must be something available. So one way to calculate or look at that number would be, well, do they need $10,000 per house or $20,000 per house? Look at all that stock that comes up to being 40 years in 2030, and that gives you a ballpark to begin with. I'm just saying that I don't know. I'm just saying, what kind of a number would that be?
Well, that's what Maria and Danielle need to research and come back to us with.
Okay.
That's a really good point, though, Kamesh, that the kind of intensity of it as the years go on is going to be an.
Because we may have to start putting into that fund from tomorrow.
Good point. Okay, should we move on to the next agenda item or item on the?
Yep, you've got the yellows up.
Okay, so explore leading edge trends in small scale retiree complexes that might include limited height to provide smaller spaces and incorporating communal areas with same shared facilities. So this is one where we have an X under significant work done in 2020, since this was part of our 55 and up.
Yeah, so we
have
we have the group
with that, and with the next third one, yeah.
Yep.
Sorry, Peggy, again.
No, we have group homes. We have the 11. We can cull from the 11 to get to these.
My question with this one and with the selecting pilot areas, do we think that this is one we need to address at the moment, considering we've done a fair amount of work on it already? Or do we focus our energy on the 2040 pillars that we haven't spent as much time on? And I'll just add that the last one from here is investigating the potential for small-scale mixed-use buildings.
Well, I think kind of like what Maria and is going to work on the previous pillar. I mean, we're going to all come up with. We're now going to be able to ask those focus group questions of the things that we've researched quite a bit of, and so I think, in that regard, we definitely are going to focus on that portion of it to try to get the insights of which ones the citizens prefer, of the ones that are feasible. I think as we saw the last meeting where we asked about the multi-use 55 and older, that wasn't even something we had even talked about last year until last week. So, and so I think that we definitely need somebody still taking a look at it. And what would be great is if it was somebody that was in the old group and somebody in the new group, because I think getting a new set of eyes on it would be really good.
I also think that we had decided for leading edge trends, the village is a trend that we discovered, as well as the tax abatements that we discovered. So I think we should be able to move forward with the new council on suggesting that we have come up with these two items that can be enacted fairly quickly and can at least start the ball rolling with these pillars.
At our planned future work session.
Mm-hmm.
So, is there any discussion about the 55 plus pillars here?
Yeah, I would also, Danielle and I would also like to volunteer for investigate the potential for small scale mixed use buildings, businesses, residential, or live work combinations as well. So you can copy us there. I think the mixed uses and, all these shopping, small strip malls or things like that, we'd like to investigate. And actually, I asked both candidates for position 3 about this, and there's a lot of expectations of future residential options for seniors, because even some of the elected officials that retired, they're kind of thinking, we're not going to be able to stay in Coppell unless there's a different offer of residential that adapts more to the needs of 55 and plus.
So all the questions and notes that are in there, that was actually my email to when Peggy sent out the spreadsheet. What I am grappling with is somebody who's 35 plus today and will be 55 plus or 55 and plus in 2040. Their perception of what they want at that point is quite different from what, say, somebody who's 45 now and close to 50, 55 now is, assuming we'll all be there until 2040. How does all that factor in?
Well, as far as I'm concerned, somebody who's 35 really doesn't know.
I know that they have no. I don't think they can wrap their head around that, right?
No, well, and they don't know enough about the future. Go ahead, Bart.
Yeah. I was going to say, one thing that we heard in one of the senior housing webinars was basically people who are developing these communities now noting how different the baby boomers are from the generation that preceded them as far as what they want in a retirement community, or however we want to phrase that, 55 and up community. Just the expectations, the kinds of things they want to see there, they're just completely different.
No, because even the pace at which people adopt technology and the expectations from what will be, where technology will be, I think the perceptions are quite different from somebody who's 35 today versus, say, somebody close 55 today.
Well, and I want to, Kamesh and Subu, I want to let you know that city planners are grappling with that question while they're planning cities all the time, because, when you put a waste treatment, or a water treatment plant, you're kind of projecting what the population's going to do. But what I have heard from a lot of seniors now is that they want to stay, they want to age in place, they want to stay in Coppell, and there's just not the possibility of staying in Coppell with the offer of residential space we have. Mm-hmm. And for the city, it is a plus to have the 55 and plus here, because they are not, the opposition of densification was the impact on the school system. And actually seniors don't have children in the school system, are paying the taxes of the ISD, but they actually are not using the school system. So I understand where you're coming from in a sense that, how do you plan, for the future generations when you don't even know what the future generations will need. But I think this pillar is addressing the need of the 55 and plus community that's here now.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yes, this is Yvonne. I think what I've heard, because I'm holding back from volunteering on these items, because I feel like my skills would be best used in the data modeling side of things. As I'm hearing all of this, I'd like to share, what comes to mind. What I'm actually hearing is it might behoove us as the inquisitive questioning team to develop some sort of a consumer sentiment that can be published on a moving model scale. So for example, if you are 55 now, talk to me about these 3 things. So whatever our questions are that we team to acquire information or knowledge on, then I feel like we could formulate some sort of an index and hand that to a consultant to model it out for the future. Because we already know what our density is, we know what the volume is, we know what the number of properties are. So I really feel like we could come up with something very tangible by guiding a consultant to the right source, right?
Although those questions of density, property numbers, and population also do really come into play with this next set of pillars.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so that's kind of just so that you know what I'm holding out on and I'm listening to. And I really think that taking the common HOA piece, I might be of service if we could get what all those HOA regulations are. Certainly someone at the city has them that have been filed, and just document a graph that outlines the commonalities and use some of those things for our questions. So just thinking out loud, trying to help formulate a plan.
I really like the idea, Vaughn, of having an ongoing survey that's gathering that measurement. But I think one of the other pillars had that measurement piece. When Peggy went and we looked at it, there was the metrics around happiness or something, satisfaction. I can't remember what it was.
Yeah.
For us at 55, I joined this team because I am that person, and I can answer a ton of questions of what my needs are as I age in place. And a lot of that has to do with what? It's your bottom line. It's your bottom line as you age. It's how the city is going to maintain the high degree of services that they've always had, right? Mm-hmm. And then when you look at the baby boomers or those of us on the cusp, you're going to have a different set of needs than the next group of individuals that are aging in place. So I feel like creating that index at least shows that we're evolving, right? It's on a continuum.
Right. Mindy, and it's more of a question for you. What kind of surveying capabilities do we have other than when we use like the Future IQ folks? Does the city have some sort of mechanism where they can go out and poll and do things on a more consistent basis that we're not having to pay somebody on the outside to do?
Or if we made an online survey, could that be sent out in the email blast?
Or that, mentioned in your water bill and all that kind of stuff. And
I mean, you could put the link there.
Yeah, you could put the link there, and then
QR code on the water, so that people would go directly to your Qualtrics or whatever you're using.
Right.
So one other way to do this kind of a survey would be what YouTube does. I don't know, you have to run it by some to see if all that is possible. But what you do is you embed little questions on social media. Because I know Parks and the Coppell Parks is on social media, and a whole bunch of other art centers on social media. So you embed little questions that you want to collect answers for, and from that you can cull some information as well. It is very non-intrusive. It just appears saying that, okay, if this feature was out there, would you like this or not? And then you just grade it or something of that kind.
I hear you, and think that's good, but that citizen input, I think also we need to look at establishing a process by where we also do industry reviewing.
So in past, when we have done formal surveys, what has been our response rate typically?
That's the question, Kamesh. Yeah, that's the right question, because typically survey return rate is 1/3 very good if it's 1/3, but I don't think Coppell has got 1/3. I may be wrong. Mindy, what's been the feedback?
I would have to check with our city manager's office. Always does the citizen satisfaction survey, so I'd have to check with them to see what that is, because I just don't know off the top of my head. I think we all know all surveys have similar response. I think we actually have done well, but I'll find out and I'll let you know for sure.
Yeah, some of these non-intrusive surveys, you ask the same question several times at several, so they just pop up and some people respond to it at some point. Whereas the formal surveys, there's a deadline, time bound, and you keep pressuring. So there are issues with those surveys as well. Of course, all surveys have issues like you mentioned, but I'm just trying to see if there is a way to capture more input and more of a dynamic input, because the informal surveys that keep popping up, they keep happening over a period of time and it keeps rolling forward. So you keep getting new information.
Right. I would just caution even. I was just going to say, I would caution, even though I threw this out here, that's the reason we have the focus groups, is because we have such a digital divide in this community that, especially on those things that are maybe bound to social media, you're going to have a very select group that's always answering the questions and being presented with the questions.
Yeah.
And so anything we come up with is just to inform. And, maybe we could come up with a list of 5 questions when we come out of this process that we do a rolling average of, or something like that. I'm not sure. I was in the market research industry for a long time too, so it's not the best way for us to get everything we need, but it is a good way to get just a pulse on those changing demographics that we were just talking about.
Right.
And that's exactly what I was going to say, Russell, is that's part of the reason we discussed having focus groups in the first place, is because we can't reach everybody by survey. But again, it's a start, right? So.
Right.
Okay, should we move on to the next pillar?
Yes. The gray pillar?
Yes, please.
There you go.
All right. First gray pillar is, first of all, they all fall under undertake studies to consider optimal future city population. Then we have the specifics of study more efficient land use and the implications of additional space being freed up from redundant car parking lots. Assess best practices in housing development policies in benchmark cohort communities. Then finally, develop housing options targeted to meet changing expectations and amenities for young workers and families, including more townhomes in the style of Old Town. That is a lot. And Yvonne, when you were saying you wanted to get into the big data manipulation, I thought of you on these.
Also, we got that thing from one of the council members this week. And so, that kind of pertains to developing housing options that target to meet changing expectations and amenities for younger workers and families, the Urbano plot that got sent out. I have been to Urbano in Austin, which is the same developer that made it in Kyle, Texas. And it is for young families. It is for families that want to have a house but can't afford to buy one. And it's actually subsidized in both those towns. It's subsidized housing, but it's really cute. It's a really good idea, and it doesn't have to necessarily be subsidized. And but it's really cute. Oops. Hang on. My mouse took off. We'll get us back to the gray. There we go.
I'd like to put myself on the parking lot one. That one just kind of interests me as a grand puzzle.
The parking
That one's a 10 or 15 year kind of pillar, really, right?
Yes. There you are. You got parking lots.
Peggy, I'm pretty interested in the best practices for housing development policies, and also in the very first one back on the green. Once you can scroll back up safely.
Okay, so which one of
the middle gray one?
The middle gray one. Okay. And then you want me to go back up to the green, put you in there?
Peggy, can you number them? It might be easier.
Can y'all not see on the spreadsheet that there's row numbers?
Whoa, that's really hard.
Okay.
Yeah, on a laptop.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Yes,
I can. I can number them. I'll put numbers on them when I send this back out.
Okay.
And the numbers will just kind of mean, just 1, 2, 3 through 16 or whatever it is. So it's not a priority number, just to make sure everybody understands that. So you're saying on the green part?
The top one, yes.
The top one, regulations. Okay. I'll take number 7 here, where we're exploring trends of retiree complexes.
I don't know much about anything, but I would be glad to help anybody who needs help.
Kamesh, we all need help, let's face it.
Sure.
I'm really interested in being a part of the focus group compilation and navigation. I don't know if that's an actual item, but that's something that interests me, obtaining the voice of the community.
That would kind of, I guess, be working with all of us that had focus groups as an X item. Mm-hmm. Is there any pillar itself that you would like to also work on?
I hate to spread you too thin at this point, Sheila.
Well, and Mindy, what is our magic number on people on the same call?
So for a quorum, anything more than 3 is a quorum.
Okay. So let's just all keep that in mind.
All right.
I'll take number 9.
Explore, it's this one here, the several key pilot areas? Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
And then I am free to assist anywhere where you need help with data modeling or capturing the information associated with the focus groups.
Okay, hang on one second. So Bart, I need to ask Bart a question. Bart, where would the village, Bart or Russell, where would the village fit in? The key pilot areas or the edge trends in small scale retiree?
I think it'd be edge trends.
Edge trends? Okay. Oh, I'm in a good spot. Okay, never mind.
Yvonne, can I join you on your pillar?
Oh, I'm sorry, what?
I asked Yvonne, could I join her on her pillar?
Sure.
Okay.
Yes.
Who's speaking? Wait a minute. Yvonne's pillar? Hold on. Yvonne's pillar.
Number 9.
There you go. And who said, can I join her?
Sheila Manis.
Oh. Perfect.
Okay. And you can, and since you're there, add me into that just to be part of that 3-person team.
Whoops. Hang on. On the
number 9.
Number 9, you got it. Okay. Okay. Now, Yvonne, you wanted to be put on something else?
No, just I
right?
offered assistance in modeling and any of the data compilation associated with the focus group.
Okay.
So feet to the street if you needed me to go and poll people, whatever you need me for.
Okay. So was there another square that I missed somebody on that you said you want a certain square? So we don't have anything here for develop housing options targeted to meet changing expectations and amenities for young workers.
It occurs to me, Peggy, that might be one where maybe instead of having a separate research group, we focus on, and I had mentioned before, trying to find a speaker to speak to like missing middle housing. So that might be a way for us to kind of tackle that instead of having a separate research group, is to have a speaker on the topic.
Okay. So let me. Speakers, maybe. Okay. And let me see if there's anything else. So up here, so developing internal structures within the city planning for the unique oasis and stuff. Oh, you know what? I'll take that one.
Peggy, I can help you with that.
All right. So me and Kamesh.
Yeah, and the other one as well.
Whichever team has just one person, just put me in there. I can do any one of those teams.
There's a couple that have one person. So
Yes, Peggy, put me on this one as well. 7.
Number 7, you got it.
Yeah, put me with Russell on number 10.
Okay. Put Russell on number 10.
Number 10.
Number 10 has Russell on it.
Add Subu.
Oh, add Subu. Okay. Sorry.
And also put me with Bart on number 11.
Okay. So let's see here. Now I think we have nothing that's unfilled.
No, there is one. No, we filled everything.
Well, we didn't fill this one here on housing developments targeted to meet changing expectations and amenities for young workers and families.
I think we can fill that gap a little with speakers. In the past, we've found that helpful.
Yeah. So we have that noted here for developers and stuff.
So do you need someone to add a name, or are we good?
I think we're good.
Okay.
I think we go recruit the speaker, and then once we hear what some of the options really are, and then people can jump in and take that one on. I think that's the way to go.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Sounds good.
Okay, so I'm going to pretty this up and then send it back out to the group because I noticed my fonts are all over the place. And I'll update it and send it out. And so Bart, so it's June. So in our July meeting, what's the expectation? Should all of us that are on groups have met with our counterpart to discuss what we need to start researching and deep diving into?
Yeah, I think a good goal is to definitely start work and meet with your counterpart. I think having it wrapped up is too aggressive, but at least to start And then I think we had discussed not having a meeting in August. So then perhaps the goal is get started and then have a goal of having information to present back to the group at our September meeting.
Can we talk about the deliverables, I guess?
Absolutely.
Because I mean, off the top of my head, there are the questions that we want to be asking the different cities, and then around our pillar, and then there are the questions that we think would be that would relate to a focus group, and then obviously we have our independent research that we're going to do around the different topics. But what else am I missing?
I guess any input that you get from real estate, this D column, any input that you get by calling up and talking to, real estate developers or.
Well, to me, it seems like we need to get those questions for the cities and the developers. I guess that's another deliverable is, are there any different questions I would ask the developers? Because we need to get those together to create an amalgamated list that we can then each go out to divvy up the cities and then go out and start doing the interviews or the developers, right? So we do, as you said, and we respect their time and just have one set of questions.
Oh yeah, definitely. So we wouldn't have we would just be developing the questions for the cities and developing questions for the focus group because we haven't even priced doing focus groups yet. We'd have to write an RFP in order to do that. Which is
maybe that's a good deliverable for July is creating the questions, having initial discussions if you have a partner, and then just creating those questions. So, and especially for going to other cities is so we can have one centralized kind of questionnaire that we're sending out to each city. Yes,
and then I don't know that there would be just one developer that would talk about all the things because there are some developers that concentrate more in 55 plus housing and certain developers that concentrate more in apartments for younger families or development for a family and mixed use communities and things like that. So I think we're looking at different developers and different
okay. But we wouldn't have any. So there wouldn't be a common set of questions for the developers. It's really just pick their brain about what they look for, what criteria they need, so we can build that out as target criteria if we want to pursue one of those options. Is that correct?
Yeah, and also the type of developer that you're thinking, plus the questions. Unless you know of one and you talk to them, so.
Yeah, so that sounds very pillar specific. So that's fine. People can go do that. So when we meet back, hopefully we can agree on a set of questions in July, and then we can divide up the cities that we want to target. And during August, people can start trying to set up appointments and conversations. Does that sound good?
Yeah. So I'll put this list of deliveries also on the new spreadsheet, and I'll also put the cities that Mindy's going to send out on a tab so that we have that. Sheila, let's see, there's 2 people who did not turn in contact information. Sheila, you did not turn it in, and neither did Subu. So in order for y'all to work with your partners and stuff, that part of the spreadsheet that has the contacts on there, we'll need phone numbers and things so that your partners can find you.
Okay, I'll add it.
So maybe after the call or something, if you send those to me by email, I can put them into the spreadsheet.
Okay. Really good discussion on this, and I think I'm not the only one here who is very thankful to Peggy for organizing for organizing all this info. It's really helpful.
Thank you.
Okay.
Definitely. Thank you very much.
All right, Mindy, do we want to talk about future meeting scheduling?
Yeah, so a couple of things. Just wanted to first start with, I want to make sure that you all received the invitation from the City Secretary's office for the Volunteer Appreciation event next week. Yes.
No,
Tuesday?
I didn't get anything.
Y'all didn't get it. Okay.
Nope.
Nope.
Yeah, I didn't get it.
What was the question, Mindy?
What day is it?
It's the 15th. So let me check then with Ashley to see how she sent that out and to make sure you all received that.
I'm sorry, I'm wrong. I did get it.
The volunteer recognition?
Yes, volunteer. Yeah. Yes,
I got it, but I couldn't register. There was some snafu with my email.
Oh,
but
okay.
I did receive it. I did receive it.
I take it back. I
me.
did receive it too.
Yeah, I couldn't register. Correct.
So neither. Okay, so I will let her know that y'all were having a hard time getting to RSVP or register. So that if you want to give me your names on who hasn't registered but wants to go, then I can just pass those along to her if that's okay. So
who would that email have come from?
Ashley Owens.
No, I have not gotten any email from her.
You didn't
On
get
the
it.
top,
Okay.
it read City of Coppell, and it came out on 5/13 at 4:18 p.m.
Today? Oh, 5/13. 5/13.
May 13th.
Yeah.
Mindy, I'll send you my name because I did register, but I never got a thing saying congratulations, you registered, or thanks for registering, or nothing.
Yeah, I do see the email. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I have gone into the void.
So you did get it, Kamesh?
I did get it, yes.
Hey, Sheila, what day was it? I'm sorry, Yvonne, what day was it?
On May 13th, and the event is June 15th.
I found it also.
Okay, good.
Okay, so if you want me to pass along your name, I will certainly do that. Or I guess if you want to just email Ashley directly, you can do that. But
is that the volunteer appreciation?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I got it.
Okay, perfect.
Is it at 6 o'clock, Mindy?
I do believe it starts at 6. Yes, and it's in the plaza back behind Town Center. So there'll be food trucks there. She said right now, I think she has a response of like 300 people that are coming. So it's going to be, going to have some just neat activities. So if you can make it, we certainly want y'all to get to enjoy it because we appreciate your time, your energy, and your participation on this board. So just wanted to make sure everyone got it.
Add me to the list, but if it's more than 3 of us, can we talk to each other?
Oh, yes. I think it will be posted, so we'll be good. Just don't talk about this stuff. Just have fun and enjoy yourself. Don't worry for it
Nice one,
at the
Sheila.
event.
Thank you.
Okay, so that's the first thing I wanted to bring up. The other thing I wanted to talk about, so now there are some boards that are meeting in person, some that are strictly in person now, some that are still virtual, and then there's some that are doing kind of a hybrid. So the Smart City Board, for example, they are going to have 1 meeting per quarter in person, and then the rest virtual. So I just wanted to throw it out there to you all to see what you want to do going forward. Are you ready to come back in person? Would you like to just do a quarterly in-person meeting and then keep the rest in over Zoom? I think if we want to do just 1 quarterly meeting, we could start with the September meeting in person. So I just kind of wanted to get your feedback on that, on what you prefer and what would be best.
I don't know if I have a strong preference, honestly.
Okay.
I like the hybrid mode.
Okay. I think there's some convenience to that, right? So if we could at least, I think there's a certain synergy that's built whenever we're face to face. So if we could do at least one quarterly meeting in person, that'd be great. And then we could leave the rest. So we'll leave July, since it's still the summer and people may be traveling. We'll leave July as a virtual meeting. Then we're going to skip August. And so we could do our September meeting in person, and then we'll do October, November virtual. So we'll just kind of do it like that, if that works for y'all. Okay.
With snacks.
I'm sorry, what?
With snacks.
With snacks. Okay, we'll see what we can get, Maria. You have been focused on food before, so
you know me. I like to party.
Okay, so then we'll maybe we can. I don't want to mess it up because Julian sends a specific invite for the meeting itself. So maybe we'll just do on the calendar invite. We'll put virtual in July and then in person in September, just so everybody remembers. So, and then we'll kind of plan out the rest of the year after that. So that was really the main thing I wanted to check with you all to see what your feelings were. So, perfect.
Mindy, I have a question about the board meetings that are on the water bill. Our board isn't really there on any of the published boards saying, every month on the second Wednesday or whatever. And when this thing came up on Facebook, Coppell, where everybody started talking about the pillars for the Foard, I thought, well, maybe it should be on the water bill or where the others are, like planning and zoning is listed there. And so wherever y'all list the board meetings, maybe we should be there too, but I don't know. I don't know what the criteria is for that.
Yeah, I don't know either. I would have thought we were, but I'll check with Hannah Cook and ask her if we can get ours listed on the water bill. It's on the website, but again, I know maybe not everybody's going to the website, so I'll definitely ask her if we can be added to the water bill. So then just also on future meetings, I just want to make sure I hear correctly. So really at the July meeting, we'll pretty much leave the agenda the same because we're going to continue the discussion about pillar research. So I don't know if it will take the same amount of time, but do y'all want to leave that the only item, again, just respectful of everybody's time? Or if there's anything else y'all want to include on there, just let me know for the July meeting.
Well, and there's a speaker that was suggested for one of the topics. So when should this speaker come, in September? Or should it be earlier, better?
Good question.
Because maybe earlier so we can have all the July part of the meeting would be the speaker, and then part maybe reporting out each team the advances on what we're doing.
Yeah, because I guess there would probably be less discussion at the July meeting and more just coalescing everything together.
Yeah.
So Bart,
assuming I can get the speaker lined up.
That's what I was going to say. You were going to line up the speaker? Is that what? Okay.
Yeah, I've got some leads on the topics.
So if and when you get that confirmed, just let me know so we can add it to the agenda if in fact they'll be there.
Great.
Okay. That's all I had on future meetings. So.
Okay. And that is the last item on the agenda besides the next item, which is meeting adjourned. So thanks everyone. Really appreciate your participation tonight.
Thanks everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.